Okay, hello. I'm just testing my stream setup. I got some new stuff. Got myself a green screen. And we're doing this CodeSandbox stream, kind of talking about all the state management challenges we have in our editor. And we're going to use tool I built based on these experiences and kind of use that tool to talk about these challenges and how to solve them and so on and so on. But I thought I would just, let's see. Oh, that's my calendar. Let's see, what should we do here? I'm a little bit curious if things are actually working. So I'm just going to check. Yeah, it's working. Okay, cool. Okay, let's just play around with some stuff here. So I'm doing one change to this tool, and that's related to indirection. So previously you would use, let's see. Previously, when you built the stores in Impact, you would like do this create store thing. So you didn't export the actual function, you would export like the hook that you create. But that creates a level of indirection. And what I mean by that is if you command click the hook, you don't get to the implementation of the store. You actually get to the export line underneath. While when you do it like, when you do it like this, you actually import the store and then you use the store. You can command click the store, and then, or you can command click the timer store, and then you actually get to the store, the implementation of the store. And this is just one of the values of Impact, is to minimize the level of indirection. So you always like can command click to exact destinations of implementation. You can still like change this if you wanted to like export. You could still do like export const, use timer, and then you would just use store, timer store. You can do that if you want to, but again, like the documentation is to highlight the values of the project. So that's why it works that way. And I'm very sure. Yeah, I do wonder though, if I command click this one, do I actually get to the implementation? We should we should check that. Anyway, so I'm just updating the documentation, and I haven't actually implemented this yet. That it works this way, so we can do that. But I just need to update the final documentation here. So we have export counter store, and I'm being very explicit about everything. So you have like counter store. I'm going to remove this one. This is just an example showing how you can use other state primitives. Let's see, message store. Cool. Yeah, I think that's fine. And then we have, yeah. Sorry about this. This is a little bit boring, but it. Also, I'm using like a spotlight here, and I think it kind of wrecks my. It's very intense. So I might turn that. Like if I turn it off, how does that feel? Like, yeah, it kind of changes how things look, but yeah, I don't know. We'll try it. I'll see if I get like super dizzy or use. So this would be API store instead, and then API store, and then it would import use store from Impact app. API store, use store, API store. Like so. And let's just do it like this. API store. Or maybe you want to do it like this. Yeah, we need the other one as well. Cool. So I'm not talking about the stuff if you haven't seen this, like the official stream starts next week, and then we'll talk a lot about like the decisions here. It might not make sense for like your experience and the apps you've been building, but they do reflect the challenges that we've been facing at CodeSandbox. Let's see, let me just copy both of these ones, and then API store, use store, API store, blah blah blah, API store. Do we use? Yeah, and this should be, I'm using so this is the change post title mutation. I'm not calling it state, I'm calling it, like, I'm not sure how, like, it doesn't matter, like, you can name these things however you want, but I want to have consistent documentation, and so I'm decided to like point to mutation when it's a mutation that you're dealing with. I could use state because it's kind of the state of the mutation. But yeah. Let's see. Then we have events. Okay, I think this is the final thing. Let's implement this. Some store, that's fine. Also, I have some bakery here. You'll have to excuse me. Let's see. Okay. So this will actually clean up some code as well, because now we're going to do not create store, but we're going to do use store. And how will this work? It will actually be this implementation. Let's see. Oh, it still says hook here actually. Let's copy this because that's the same. And this is actually a store. It's not a hook anymore. So now we don't need like this reference thing. So we should be able to completely remove that, and this should just work now. By the way, I can make the code a little bit bigger. Like, I need to find what's a good, yeah, 150%. Nice. Okay. So how do we do this now? Now we'll resolve with the actual function, the actual store function, which is exactly what we want. So we don't need this store reference anymore, which is nice. We don't need to do this anymore. We can just use the store as is. Do I need? Yeah, still need that one. Cool. And then I think that's actually it. That's where I was using the reference. Okay, but we can actually test this because the playground actually uses the. Let's bring up the playground. Yeah, it's erroring now because. I'm not sure why I'm not getting the errors there. I think they are there. Yeah. The get storage. Oh no, that's something else. It's kind of annoying. Oh yeah, there it is. Create store. I'm not sure why I'm not getting the error here. I should probably create an issue on that. Let's see. So we have the app, use router. Yeah, so use router is not a thing anymore. We actually just export a function, and I'm going to be explicit here. I'm going to call it router store. I'm just going to call it store everywhere. That's going to be my way of doing it. Just see how that feels. And then we have, yeah, so now it's not called, let's create a directory called stores. And let's move it in there, and we're going to rename it to router store. Cool. And now we're going to use store, but we're going to use it from, that's kind of annoying. Like in this development environment with the library itself, I have created this like path, but for some reason it doesn't use, the IntelliSense doesn't use that path. Router store. Okay, so let's see if my theory was right there. Yeah, so I get straight to the implementation. That's nice. If I click this one though, I guess that's how it's supposed to be. Yeah. Because that just finds references when you command click. And here we have, yeah. But anyways, as I said, that's one of the values of the library, is to reduce indirection. So we just did that. And then I can go straight to route here. That's nice. Cool. Let's see if this actually works. Failed to resolve. Oh, example link. So again, let's just remove them. Use store from impact app. And routes is now coming from stores, router store, use store, router store. There we are. And it's running again. Nice. Oh shit, what's happening? What happened there? Oh, it was just laggy, I think. I think it was because of the preview. I was loading all these Sandpack examples. So it was that's kind of the thing, like running in the browser, you kind of share execution. Like our editor kind of shares execution with what's in the iframe. I guess. I don't know if does browsers do that? Do they have like separate threads for iframes? Okay, cool. So that's working again. And then I think we're actually ready to make a release out of it. 30, that's a nice turn. Now the problem is that all the examples, I can't change them here because they use the actual published version. So I'm going to, oh, by the way, I'm going to, no, can I see? Can I keep this thing in? How do I make the, hello. Can I like see the, oh, that's kind of annoying. I thought I could like put some of this stuff inside the scene so I can see it. Anyways, that's something I need to fix. Okay, cool. So we updated the version. Let's create a PR for this. And I'm wondering now, am I using the, we just published something, 308.26. I don't think that's the latest version. I need to restart my VM. Yeah, look at this. We updated the, oh, that's interesting. It's actually errors. Why does it have errors? Anyways, I'm going to just do this manually for now. And then I'm going to restart my main branch. Merge. Let's, oops, not rename, but what the hell? Change branch. And setup in progress. I'm just going to restart it to get the latest version of our cloud process, because it has some updates to how we create commit messages, which I've been working on for a week, and it's pretty awesome. But first we have to publish. Let's see, so yarn build and npm publish. Nice. Okay, so now I should be able to branch out, and we can update the actual playground. So let's bring up the, I'm going to open it in a new tab, and then we're going to go to example SandPack, and we're going to use version 30. And then we're going to have a bunch of issues. Let's see. Yeah, I think they're, it's kind of annoying. It's a little bit slow down. And now I think there's some, there we are. Yeah, create store isn't there anymore, which is right. Okay. Yeah, so maybe, maybe we could just talk a little bit about this thing as I'm fixing the examples. Or should we? Yeah, we can do that. I'll just rant as I'm going through the examples. So in the first example here, we're just talking about how you define store, and that by default they're registered globally. And the only thing we really need to fix here is, yes, so let's find the learn stores. So we can call it, it's kind of weird, I'm calling it message store instead now. And then we have the message store, and then you have use store, message store. And then we're going to say message store again, just to be like very explicit. And oh yeah, this message store, it just returns the actual message. Okay. Let's see, where are we? Hello world. So this should be message store, and we don't need to create anything, and we don't need to export anything. We just export the function. There we go. Should that work? Let's see. I wonder if it's like, it's extremely slow for some reason. I wonder why. Oh yeah, use store. So rather we say import use store from impact app here. Like, it's kind of annoying writing code this way because I don't have any like formatting or anything like that. Store is not a function. What does that mean? Oh, wait, did it get an error from... Oh, did I do something bad now? What did I do? Store is not a function. Am I doing something wrong? Message store from message. Oh, yeah. There we go. Hello world. So this is the point, right? It should be like impact is quite low level, and it's really important that people understand that at its core, it's defining a store as a function, and that is what impact is. It's these stores that are defined as functions, and it's not about its state primitives, even though those are the primitives that kind of allows you to create state and manage that state in a like friendly, accessible way. But at its core, it's just having a store defined as a function, because that allows you to return a public interface, and then you can still have private stuff here inside the function. And you can use other stores. So I can do like foo use store, foo store, like that. So that's like the really great thing about impact. It's just a function. The stores are just defined as a function, and you can compose those stores using the hooks pattern. Which might seem like, why is that so important? How does that actually affect anything? And that's the challenge with this tool, is to kind of explain what that enables you to do. But yeah, so in the next one, so by default, they're all global. You're not providing any stores in any way. You're just defining them and using them. And if multiple components consumes the same store, they will use the same instance of that store. So here, let's go in here. I should probably move a bit faster as I get used to the changes here. And then we have a counter store, use store, counter store, and I'm going to be very explicit. Counter store. Cool. I guess that's it. And then this counters, and then we have counter store. We don't need to import. We'll just export this function called counter store, and we don't need to export this stuff. Cool. Let's see now. And again, like as I said, now we define a private variable called count. So nothing can access this count. You can only increase it, and then we, for some reason, alert that change. So when I increase this count now, it goes to 1. I increase the other, it goes to 2. It just shows that these two are now shared. So that's how like typically you do global state management. Is like everything is just shared. But a thing that we notice at CodeSandbox is that there's a lot of value in having. Sorry, it's the dad of our daughter's. Let's see how should we do this. And I'm using my phone as a. How am I going to respond to that? 2 seconds. I'm just going. How am I going to do this? Okay, 2 seconds. So the stream next week, I'll be doing it during working hours, but now I have to coordinate play dates. Okay. Impact allows you to scope stores to a component tree. Yeah. So the point that in the first version of CodeSandbox, we used a global state store, but it caused a lot of typing issues because a lot of the stuff, a lot of the state needs to be like instantiated. It's not there always. So we can turn on strict null checking because we had, when we transferred or transitioned to TypeScript, we can turn on strict null checking because there was so much state that we, I got short-winded, sorry. There we go. We had so much state that wasn't necessarily there, but as developers, we knew in the different contexts, it being a component or like an action, that the state was actually there. And when we transitioned to the new editor, we wanted to fix that. And the way to fix that is to scope your state and related management of that state to certain like pages and features and stuff. So you kind of do your asynchronous loading, you use your component tree to do asynchronous loading, and then you instantiate sections of your state and management of that state when that data is resolved. So for example, in the editor, we are showing like a branch, and if you define that globally, the branch might be loaded or it might not be loaded. And then you in all contexts, you have to check that. But when you do, if you do the loading of the project in a component and then you instantiate the actual state management of a loaded project, then it just becomes natural to just consume it. Because if you move away from that, you'll unmount the thing that exposed the state management, and then like you're in a different context. And we were using React context providers for this. So conceptually, they make a lot of sense, but they're just horrible to work with. So that's what Impact conceptually also does. It just allows you to define certain state and management of that state and scope it to like a certain component tree where you can instantiate it with any loaded data. What were we doing? Oh yeah, unique. Yeah, so this is the stores provider. So again, we have to go in here and sorry. Impact app. Impact app, counter provider, and then we have the counter store here. And then I'm also explicit about what kind of provider it is. It's the counter stores provider. Because that's also a thing. Like you wouldn't, with context providers in React, you have to create a lot of them, at least in a complex application like CodeSandbox. And that's not really what you want to do. You want to compose them together for certain things. So, for example, again, we've loaded up your branch, we've connected to your dev environment, and from that point, when we have a running dev environment, we have your branch data. That's where we want to expose different management of state. It's not like you would create a provider for like a very specific thing, like a counter here. It's more per page and per feature. Let's see, counter stores provider. So we have use store, counter store. So the point that we're making here is that now I'm wrapping each counter with its own counter stores provider, which means that they will resolve to their stores provider to get the instance of the counter store. And since they have different providers of that store, they'll get different instances of that store. Oh, I've had a cold for like 2 weeks, like not a cold, but like just one spot in my throat here, and then it starts itching. Counter store. Sorry, I just need to be extremely specific here. And then counter store export. So what we're basically doing now is making the consumption of a store a little bit more verbose, but we keep the definition of a store less verbose. And that's normally I would argue that's a bad thing. Oh my god. Oh, shit. That's a bad thing because you have many more consumption points than you have definition points. You have one definition point. So that can be a little bit more verbose. But that's not one of the values of the library. As I mentioned, the value is that you should be able to command click anything and just go straight to implementation. What were we doing? Yeah, I think that's it. So if we refresh, oops. Oh my god. I might have to turn off soon. My throat is not collaborating. Okay, so when we increase the count here now, we can increase it to 2, but here it starts at 1 and then 2. So they are different now because of the provider. And this is not to say you should organize necessarily having these reusable stores that you want to expose with like different instances to different parts of your application. It's just to understand how they work, because typically you do only have one instance of any store, but maybe a pattern occurs that this reusability is useful, but that's not the main purpose of it. Let's see, in this scenario we just add a single store to the provider, but you can add multiple stores. Yeah, as I said, you would typically not create a provider with a single store. You would create like a global stores provider where you have all your global stores, and then you might have like project page provider where you have all your project stores and so on. What this also means is that stores are resolved using the component tree. Yeah, so this section of the documentation is to understand what it actually does. So now we're going to add a second stores provider at the top level to understand how these stores are being resolved and instantiated. So let's look at that. Oh, come on, Christian. It's starting getting cold here in Norway. Well, not cold, but like colder. And I had like a few really cold mornings, and then I'm not good at adjusting. So I don't put on the right clothing, and then of course you get the cold. Counter store. And then what I'm also doing here, I should probably change this. Like I have a math store, which makes absolutely no sense because stores isn't supposed to be used for everything. They are supposed to be used for like state management. But you can technically, like in this case, it's a math store that just has some methods. Well, in this case, one method to do addition, but that's something you would typically put in like a utility file because it's a pure function. while the stores are there for impure stuff, really. Anyways, it's really hard to explain concepts or complex concepts or tools that solve complexity. That's really hard to explain, because if you do it with very complex examples, it's hard to understand how it works. But if you use very simple examples, it's like, why the hell do you use this tool? This is so simple to solve without the tool. So it's kind of like ironic or something. Yeah, I don't know. Math store. So we're going to have a math store in our global stores provider, and counter stores provider is going to have our counter store. And then we're going to use the store counter store. Do you see that I get this autocomplete, by the way? That's Codium. We're going to release it soon, and it's pretty amazing. Like, two things that are really awesome is our new commit messages, which has been released. You can see this updated imports and store names, updated imports and store names in example sampack and stores tsx file. So it's much better at describing your full set of changes. It's super fascinating, like working with AI or like prompts, because you want a very specific result. In our case, we want a description of all your changes. But if you mention commit messages to ChatGPT in this example, in this case, it very, very often gives you multiple commit messages, which makes sense when you have multiple changes. But we want one commit message, and making it do that is really, really difficult. But we found a way to trick it. And then there's some new functionality that also makes the response more reliable. So now we have these really awesome commit messages. And then the point is that it's completely automatic. And that's Codium as well. It's automatic, which is really nice. Let's see, counter store. And then we have counters. Oh, I have to change to, yeah, we don't have to stay here. Counter stores provider. And then we have global stores provider. So I'm like condensing this a lot because it's such a simple example. And again, it's like, why the hell do you add all this complexity to such a simple example? But again, that's how you, maybe I should emphasize that better in the documentation. Okay, so we have counter store, which doesn't need to import that, but we do need to import, well, actually we do need to import uStore, and then we'll import math store. And then we'll export function counter store, where we use the math store to do some math. And then we don't need to export this. Oops. And then we have math store, which does not need to. We can just export that. And we don't have to do anything here. We're all good. Let's say that. Yeah, sorry, maybe this is a little bit boring, a boring stream, but I was just going to test my audio and the green screen setup and make sure that things are working. And then I need my laptop in case there are any comments. And then, so it's kind of funny, my arm. Whoop. 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 Yeah. Counter store is not registered to a stores provider. It's not. What did I do? Well, that's interesting. Why is it saying that? The store counter. Or was that the... No, global stores provider. Why are you saying that? Counter stores provider. Oh, do I have a bug? This is weird. This should have worked. Ah. What did I do? What did I do? I am confused by this message. I must have done something wrong in the refactor. Because this should just work. It's not registered. Why do you say that? Did I have a typo or something? Okay, but the good thing is I can actually just take this and... Well, if it doesn't give an error, I could have opened it in CodeSandbox. Let's do that. Because I think there's a deeper issue here. That there's something I haven't taken into account. But is it because of the global stores provider? It's not registered. Why would my change in this version cause this to happen? Like, let's just try removing this one and see if it works. But this is weird, right? It's the exact same. Is it because it's resolved? Okay, I'm just going to see if I can get it running again. And the point is I don't have TypeScript here, so that doesn't really help. So I'm not going to do anything with that. But this is exactly the same code as we have up here. I don't understand that. Oh, is it because we're... Oh, that's interesting. Is it because we had 2 imports? No, what the hell is going on here? Now it's running. Okay, let me change the... Maybe it's a sandpack issue. Because I already have... Maybe it instantiates 2 versions of the... Well, let's see now what happens. That's really weird. That is really weird. No, it's still failing. What? Why are you failing? I wish I could open it in CodeSandbox even though there was an error here. Is there some way I can test this quickly? Yeah, I guess I can copy the example just into Yeah. And then we'll use the counter star math store. I think I have a bug. I introduced a bug. Then counter store. Yeah, whatever. And then let's use the test in main. Oh. Oh my god. Whatever. Yeah, I guess we can use the theme. Okay. Test. Oh, didn't. Okay, counters. Cannot find module test. Okay, why not? Oh, sorry. The requested module math store TS. Oh. No, wait. Oh, is that the issue? Oh, this is interesting. Okay, so I don't think it was... Why did I get that other error? It could have been... Yeah, it was a weird error, because this is the actual error. But I guess if... Yeah, this is interesting. So this will just work now, but I think the real issue is that if it fails to resolve... So what happened is that in this counter store, it failed to resolve this one. And then it said, this is not part of a provider, but that's not the truth. I'm just saying that if this fails to resolve, it's not part of a provider, and that's not true. So we should change that error. Not register. So this is fine. Where do we... Yeah, and this is interesting. Yeah, I guess it... Yeah. I think what happened here is that in our example, let's... okay, we know the problem now. So let's revert all the stuff within here. Delete, delete, delete. And discard changes. I think we can improve that error. Because what really happened here is that we passed undefined. That's really what happened. Let's see. Oh, wow. Why is it so slow? Whoa, it's super slow. Why are you so slow? Oh, it's fast again. We have a performance issue in the editor. We can't quite figure out what it is. But this is kind of why we are exploring this tool as well, because we're doing so much reconciliation. It's just insane. As we're embracing React and doing state management in React, it's just insane. So that's one of the issues, but it shouldn't like lock up like that. Okay, cool. We are going to try to improve that error. And if we look at the example again, what's really happening here is that in this counter store, we're passing undefined. Like this isn't defined. So we're saying use store undefined. So we should really have a check for that. So we're trying to grab the existing store, and then if we're not yeah, this is kind of a weird error. Like you wouldn't pass in undefined here. You can't really pass in undefined. But what I don't understand is why did it say counter store? That doesn't make sense to me. It should have said undefined. I'm just going to see if it actually works when I change this. No, it still doesn't work. What? Ah, I have such a bad environment here too. Oh, is he awake? Oh no, it was working. Okay. Okay, what I don't understand is why it's giving an error on counter store. Because what happened here is that this was undefined. Yeah, I have to go and pick up our youngest. Just woke up. But yeah, I don't understand how, if the store is undefined, how the hell can it get the name of the store? So there's something I'm not considering here. Or maybe, so existing store, no existing store. Oh, and then we're not global, we're not at the parent. We go to the parent and we resolve. I should really have access. Wait, of course we can look at that. Yeah, 2 stores providers. I want to take a look at this. Refresh. Does this work? Can I? That didn't seem to work. Oh yeah, yeah. This is Sandpack. Like it doesn't really work. Okay, I have to go. Oh, weird. Now it happened again. It just froze. See this? I can't change any tabs. And I wasn't even looking at it. How could that happen? That's interesting. We need to figure that out. Okay. Oh, God damn it. Yeah, I'll figure this out. Anyways, thanks for watching. If you were watching, we seem to have a pretty nice setup here, so happy about that. And then, yeah, please join the stream next week. Then it's more official, and I kind of have all this stuff worked out, so that we can rather use the documentation to talk about things instead of fixing it. Cool. Bye for now.